Let the frame roll slow. Will you? 5:57 a.m. on a Tuesday that tastes like burnt espresso and impending apocalypse. The central Texas sky still bruised with indigo, and the faint glow of Round Rock sodium lights bleeding into the horizon. The air thick with the chemical bite of Scott's turf builder mixed with the distant lowing of a neighbor's Angus calf, who somehow slept through the synchronized sprinkler symphonies that fire up every dawn like a suburban orchestra tuning for war, and me, Emily Harper, 34. Divorce papers still warm in a Smythson folder on the Carrara Island that cost more than my ex-husband's BMW 330i, standing barefoot on heated wide-plank, white oak floors that creak just enough to remind me this house is mine now. Watching a Williamson County deputy in pressed khaki slide a 9x12 manila envelope under my curbless mahogany front door with all the ceremony of a guillotine blade descending in slow motion. The red foreclosure stamp bleeds through the paper like arterial spray, screaming louder than Buddy's worst anxiety howl when thunder cracked the sky last July. And I taste copper because I bit my tongue hard enough to draw blood when I realized Madam President Victoria Langford was about to auction the only home where my rescue Labrador learned that not every slammed door means abandonment, where I learned to sleep diagonally across a king bed without flinching at empty space, where Grandpa Doodle's ghost still lingers in the faint aroma of Prince Albert pipe tobacco that somehow clings to the HVAC vents like a promise kept across decades. $3,000 in barking fines, ballooned to $4,200 with administrative surcharges, community impact fees, and aesthetic depreciation penalties that Victoria invented like a mad scientist in Louboutin lab coats. 60 days to pay or lose the $418,000 bungalow where Buddy's tail first thumped against Faro and Ballhague blue walls, where I learned to cook for one without crying into the Luke Cruisit, where the live oak in the backyard still holds the tire swing Doodle hung when I was 7 and visiting from Dallas apartments that smelled like Lysol and loneliness. Victoria doesn't know it yet, but she just declared war on a bloodline forged in Permian Basin dust storms, Korean War mud, and the kind of grief that teaches a woman to read API gravity reports before bedtime stories, to spot pay zones on seismic printouts before she can spell photosynthesis, to understand that some inheritances come in barrels per day instead of China patterns. Let me widen the lens, give you the scent of Round Rock subdivision perfection mixed with the faint rot of control and the distant tang of Whataburger grease from I-35. My name's Emily Harper, raised on Doodle Whittaker's knee in a Midland single wide that smelled of crude oil, Folgers, and the faint sweetness of mesquite smoke from the Weber, where he grilled brisket every Sunday after church. Wildcatter who struck 32-degree sweet crude in 1959 with a borrowed cable tool rig and a prayer scrawled on the back of a Lone Star coaster. Left me 2,400 acres of mineral rights under half of Williamson County, because surface dirt is for farmers and fools, baby girl. Black gold is for legends who outlast dust bowls. Mom died in a Lubbock hospital when I was 12 from a cancer that ate her faster than chemo could fight. Dad followed the bottle to Odessa motels and never came back. So Doodle taught me to read mud logs before Nancy Drew, to spot fault traps before boys, to understand that family isn't blood. It's who shows up when the rig collapses and the bank calls the note. 8 months ago, post-divorce from a man who loved Excel spreadsheets more than eye contact, I fled Dallas glass towers for Cedar Ridge Commons, 48 Toll Brothers clones built in 2020 on what used to be Ramirez family cotton land, each with Sub-Zero fridges, Tesla chargers, and souls sold separately for the low price of $325 monthly HOA dues. The privilege of living under Victoria Langford's Louboutin heel and gardenia cloud. 54, retired Wells Fargo VP who left under mutual agreement after irregular mortgage practices that somehow enriched her cousins, lives in the corner lot Georgian revival like a Real Housewives of Williamson County reject. 2 Shoreline Cocker Spaniels named Duke and Duchess who probably have their own Instagram filters and monogrammed Louis Vuitton carriers. Buddy came from the Williamson County Regional Animal Shelter, a chocolate lab mix who'd been surrendered 3 times, once for digging, once for jumping, once for barking at shadows, his ribs visible under matted fur, eyes that had seen too many slammed doors and not enough open arms. I adopted him on a Tuesday that smelled like bleach and desperation, Promised him we'd figure out the anxiety together, one clicker at a time, one adaptable diffuser at a time, one Kong stuffed with peanut butter and hope. First strike came on a Thursday when Buddy barked for 19 minutes while I grabbed HEB curbside. Victoria at the door in Tory Burch caftan and clipboard gleaming like Excalibur forged in Karen steel. Noise infraction, $150 courtesy warning. We preserve serenity for those who've earned it, dear. I tried explaining shelter trauma, the positive reinforcement trainer who charged $120 an hour, the thunder shirt that made Buddy look like a burrito of hope. She smiled that Joker grin that didn't reach her Botoxed eyes. Standards elevate us all, and some of us refuse to be dragged down. Week 2, thunderstorm that shook the Pella windows, $600 fine. Week 3, $1,800 for chronic disturbance. Victoria timing barks with Decibel X like a suburban NSA analyst building a dossier on a 3-year-old rescue. Neighbors whispered over Ring footage and GroupMe pings. Captain Marcus Delgado, retired Austin FD, Station 27 legend, fined $275 for his Old Glory, flying 1.7 inches below covenant height. Measured with a Stanley tape, while Victoria sipped LaCroix from a Yeti. Mrs. Lena Chun, single mom of 2, hid her Kuan Yin statue in the garage after Victoria declared it culturally aggressive landscaping that disrupts monochromatic harmony. Mr. and Mrs. Park, elderly Korean couple who'd lived in Austin since 1978, threatened with lien over $400 for prayer flags deemed visual noise pollution. Maria Gonzalez, Latina nurse practitioner, fined $900 for her daughter's chalk art sidewalk murals that defaced common area adjacent concrete. Secret group me called Cedar Ridge Rebels. 35 souls warning when Victoria's Range Rover autobiography prowled like a shark in Chanel No. 5. I didn't know the half of it. Doodle's estate lawyer, Mr. Ellis, called from Midland, voice cracking like dry mesquite under Red Wing boots. Emily, those 1959 leases, new horizontal laterals with prop pant tech. Your net revenue interest is $2.4 million liquid. Another $1.8 million proven undeveloped. Congratulations, you're sitting on a gusher. I laughed until I cried into Buddy's fur, because Victoria was about to evict a woman who could buy her entire bloodline on eBay and still have change for a Whataburger No. 1 with jalapenos. But the gut punch came at 3:14 a.m. when Williamson County CPS knocked, claiming anonymous concern about Buddy living in squalor and emotional neglect. Caseworker Ms. Rodriguez found Buddy in a West Elm bed with organic bison jerky and a Kong stuffed with frozen yogurt. Case closed with a sympathetic smile. Victoria warned for false report, but the terror of losing my dog, my last family, my reason to come home to a house that didn't echo with absence, tasted like battery acid and gardenia perfume. Act 1 closes with the foreclosure auction notice taped to my mahogany door like a scarlet letter. St. Patrick's Day, for $1,200 due. Buddy whimpering at the deputy's Bates boots, me clutching papers that smelled like defeat and Victoria's gardenia perfume. The Cedar Ridge sprinklers firing up like clockwork mockery. The live oak tires swing creaking in the wind like Doodle whispering, fight, baby girl, fight. The war went full Sun Tzu. Garage meetings in Captain Delgado's F-150, scented with Whataburger No. 1 grease, and Coors Light sweating on Yeti koozies. 38 neighbors crammed between firefighting turnout gear and Christmas inflatables. One mission scrawled on a Home Depot receipt. Expose the tyrant. I demanded HOA financials. Law says 30 days. Books arrived smelling like Victoria's Panic and Chanel Panic. $58,000 consulting fees to Langford Luxury Landscapes, her sister Brenda's LLC. $11,200 monthly for .4 acres of zoysia that looked like Augusta National on steroids. No bids. $19,000 security upgrades. To Sentinel Patrol Services, her cousin Todd startup with 2008 Tahoes and a Ring subscription. $27,000 architectural review board stipends, paid to Victoria herself for consulting. Mrs. Lena Chun, forensic accountant moonlighting from Deloitte, traced $142,000 vanished into Langford Legacy holding shell companies registered in Delaware. Victoria's fingerprints on every transfer, every inflated invoice, every emergency assessment. that somehow paid for Duke and Duchess's teeth cleaning at $1,200 a pop. Private investigator Jenna Morales, ex-Travis County Fraud Squad, dug deeper. Victoria fired from Wells Fargo for preferential loan structuring to cousins who flipped houses in Georgetown. Targeted Cedar Ridge single moms, elderly, minorities, 11 foreclosures. 8 homes flipped to Langford Legacy at 55 cents on the dollar. Pattern clear as Guadalupe water after rain. Twist. Doodle's mineral rights ran under 46 of 48 lots. Cedar Ridge built on Harper Oil. Surface owners never checked subsurface. Texas law mineral estate dominant. I could frack under Victoria's koi pond and call it Tuesday. Geological survey crew from Midland showed up with ground-penetrating radar. Victoria screaming trespass from her Ring camera. Crew leader Mr. Alvarez just smiled. "Ma'am, we're on Harper property, underground." Victoria escalated. Fake next-door posts from Concerned Momsar calling me unstable divorcee running illegal kennel with dangerous animals. CPS visit number 2 claiming Buddy exposed to hazardous electrical conditions. My Ring spotlight. Caseworker found Buddy teaching clicker to neighbor kids in the backyard. Case closed. Victoria cited for harassment. CPS visit number 3 to Buddy's vet records, claiming failure to vaccinate. Vet Dr. Patel faxed rabies cert with a note. Healthier than most humans. I went Goliath. Bought HOA common areas, 22 acres parks, clubhouse, greenbelts, $1.45 million cash wired from Midland. Then subsurface rights from 39 neighbors at $8,000 each. Total control 81% underground. Langford Legacy suddenly sitting on Harper Oil like a dragon on a gusher. Victoria tried bribery. $595,000 check delivered by Rick in a Brooks Brothers suit that smelled like desperation and scotch. NDA attached. I recorded every smarmy syllable on Buddy's FurboCam. Sabotage spiral. 1:47 a.m. Victoria in Lululemon stealth mode. Dumping Caro syrup in my Ring floodlight battery. Caught in 8K. Slips. Faceplants in St. Augustine. Viral 22 million views. Buddy barking the laugh track. Failed sabotage number 2. 3:11 a.m. Victoria with bolt cutters on my Nest cams. Caught again. Round Rock PD citation for criminal mischief. Peak tension. Victoria calls emergency HOA vote to expel existential threat to covenant harmony and property values. Cedar Ridge Community Pavilion packed 82 bodies. KXAN, KVUE, Fox 7, Pectrum News rolling. FBI in back row sipping Whataburger coffee from a Yeti. Victoria in Escada power suit with Van Cleef necklace probably paid with embezzled dues. Gavel banging like Thor on steroids. The Cedar Ridge Community Pavilion smelled like burnt Folgers, Bluebell homemade vanilla melting in Yeti coolers, and righteous fury. 88 bodies shoulder to shoulder. KXAN drone overhead. Detective Ramirez leaning against the beadboard wall with a Whataburger number 1 in hand. Victoria strutted in. Van Cleef necklace probably paid with embezzled dues. We convened to excise a malignancy on our aesthetic and financial integrity, meaning me and Buddy. I stood, Buddy at heel and roughwear harness with AKC Canine Good Citizen patch. Before the vote, let's discuss $142,000 missing. Langford luxury kickbacks, 11 manufactured foreclosures, 8 homes stolen. Screens flared. Mrs. Chin's Power BI dashboards projected on 120-inch Epson. Jenna's Gmail archives hacked live by ethical hacker Mr. Kim. Neighbor kid, UTCS sophomore. Victoria to nephew Derek. Harper acquisition critical. Accelerate before Q3 flip. Use barking as pretext. CPS if necessary. Neighbors erupted. Maria Gonzalez. Find $1,100 for my daughter's chalk art sidewalk murals after 4 p.m. Set it defaced common area adjacent concrete. David Park. $500 for mom's Korean ginseng garden deemed olfactory nuisance. Captain Delgado. $300 for my thin blue line decal divisive symbology. Mrs. Chun. $400 for my Buddha pagan iconography. Mr. and Mrs. Parr. $600 for prayer flags visual noise. Ms. Jackson. $800 for my son's basketball hoop after 6 p.m. Mrs. Patel. $350 for Diwali lights excessive illumination. Mr. Nguyen. $450 for faux smell culinary aggression. Ms. Rodriguez, $700 for piñata party noise terrorism. Mr. Kim, $250 for K-pop from car cultural imperialism. Mrs. Alvarez, $900 for quinceañera decorations tacky excess. Buddy barked once, perfect comic punctuation. Mic drop. I unfurled Travis County deeds on Epson projector. Purchased HOA Commons this morning, 22 acres, plus mineral rights under 39 homes. Meet your new subsurface sovereign and surface landlord. Victoria's face cycled eggshell, Merlot, corpse, ghost. Detective Ramirez stepped forward. Victoria Langford, you have the right to remain silent. Cuffs sang like Gibson strings. Full Miranda recited while KXAN zoomed on Victoria's Louboutin breaking on the pavilion steps. Cameras feasted, Buddy wagged like a helicopter. 6 months later, Victoria, 54 months federal Beaumont, $6.3 million restitution, 400 hours scooping biodynamic poop at Cedar Ridge Canine Haven, 22 acres of off-leash nirvana with agility courses, splash pads, trauma recovery wings, 68 rescues. Buddy Therapy Dog Extraordinaire, with AKC, Therapy Dog Distinguished. Langford Legacy Bankrupt, Rick disbarred. House sold to Mrs. Chun for $182,000. Cedar Ridge Cooperative replaced HOA, $195 dues. Notion Transparency Portal, Gnome Festivals, Flag Freedom, Chalk Art Sidewalks encouraged. Property values up 38%, dog-friendly premium. Harper Mineral Rights Act passed Texas legislature. 25 states follow, subsurface disclosure mandatory in residential sales. We fund $25,000 scholarships for FFA kids pursuing pet therapy degrees. Host Bark BQ 15,000 strong with Salt Lick Brisket. Live Oak Shade. Buddy has Beagle Girlfriend Scout. I date Lieutenant Marcus Delgado, Captain D's son, Austin FD. Mrs. Chun Treasure, Jenna Security Chief. Mr. Kim CTO of Cedar Ridge App. Closure. I walked the sanctuary at twilight. Buddy chasing lightning bugs under live oak canopy. Laughter replacing Victoria's Louboutin clicks. Doodle's ghost smoking his Prince Albert in the mesquite breeze. The light stays on forever. Now the question that echoes under these same stars. Was every viral poop scoop, every mineral threat, every dollar squeezed from Victoria's ruin? Was it justice, or just vengeance wearing a Labrador grin and roughwear harness? When does protecting the pack cross into orchestrating someone's annihilation with 4K cameras and Power BI dashboards? Did we build a sanctuary for healing, or just a prettier kennel with better Kong toys and scholarships? Speak your soul below, because the bark's never really over. It just changes key, pitch, and property value.